Hi, everybody. I'm kicking ass. I'm doing better. Thanks for the flowers. You guys are great.
Stand up.
There's Mom in the ICU sounding very positive, and I am back with you. And hopefully we'll be back for good now, or fairly regularly, because I think we are out of the woods with Mom. Thank you for all of your support. More about that in a minute. Just want to let you know I've got the great Colby Hall from Mediaite joining me today, and the legend Jeff Jarvis sat down with me yesterday. Great conversations with both of them coming up. If you want to jump to Colby, he starts at 21 minutes. And my conversation with Jeff Jarvis begins at 47 minutes. As always, you can watch both these conversations on YouTube or Substack if you subscribe there at Stand Up with Pete. Whew, it has been a week. Thanks so much for everybody who has supported me. In case you hadn't heard, my parents were in a terrible automobile accident in upstate New York near where they live. My mom has just gotten out of the ICU. She's still in pretty rough shape, but she is in great spirits. My dad is doing all right. We're hanging in there. We've got an amazing amount of support. Both my parents have a lot of friends up here. I have a lot of friends up here, and I've got all of you as well. So many of you have reached out, have sent messages, have sent money, have sent gift certificates, and lots of flowers to fill up Mom's room. And I am filled up with gratitude and joy for all of you who have been in my life for such a long time and supported me and my family in this case for such a long time. And my mom, my dad, my brother, we're all very, very grateful for your support. And it's going to be a long road of recovery for Mom, but it's mostly orthopedic, mostly broken bones, including 15 broken ribs. So that is not going to be easy. Hasn't been easy, but my mom's got a button for painkillers and the very best nurses and doctors and everybody in between that you could possibly ask for at Upstate Medical Center in Syracuse, New York. And we will talk about it at tonight's Hangout and a lot more. I hope to see you for the first time in a couple weeks at tonight's Hangout. If you're a paid subscriber, you should be getting an email and a link to that Hangout. I will see you at 8 East tonight. That's right. We are on. Don't let me down. Show up. I've got headlines and clips coming up, but first I want to start with this amazing letter I got from longtime listener Megan in Minneapolis. Given everything that's happening in Minnesota and Minneapolis, Megan really captures it. She is a nurse herself at a level 1 trauma center in Minneapolis. And here is in part what she had to say to me, and I wanted to share it with all of you. Dear Pete, I texted you from the hospital on the day Renee Good was murdered because what was happening was so shocking. But I couldn't even really put what I was feeling into words. The thing about being a healthcare worker is that you can learn to be quite good at compartmentalizing. You often have to, at least in the moment, because you have to absorb so much from the people you're caring for. But every once in a while, something so horrifying happens, you're shocked to your core. And once in a great while, something so violent happens that the entire hospital feels it. I work at Hennepin County Medical Center. We're a level 1 trauma center, and we're in Minneapolis' public hospital. We witness an overwhelming amount of moral injury. There are the everyday injustices, unhoused people being robbed of dignity, victims of assault and violent crime, troubling family dynamics, loss of life. But I have to tell you, we're exhausted by the big things. The violence around the murder of George Floyd, which was taking place as we were grappling with the first wave of the pandemic, the Annunciation school shooting, and now, Renee Good and the weaponization of the government against us. We're here to serve our community, but we also live in this community. These events are taking place in our neighborhoods. Some of the victims of the school shooting are the children of my colleagues. Some of my colleagues and patients were friends of George Floyd. The first responders at these scenes are the family members of my friends, and every single one of us is directly affected by what's going on right now. I'm truly in awe of the people I work with, and I'm so proud of our ability to provide skilled and compassionate care to vulnerable people while also being affected so personally by these events. I know the world is watching Minneapolis right now, and we're so grateful. I want to share with you and our community some of the things that I've witnessed over the last week. Again, this is Megan. She's a longtime listener in Minneapolis. She writes, a Somali-American nurse tearfully telling me what is happening right now feels the same as growing up in Somalia during the war. She terrified for her American-born children, but she dried her tears and walked into a patient's room and gave him 100% of her attention. Another, A nurse colleague getting real-time text updates from her husband who works in the Minneapolis Police Department, arranging for family to pick up their kids from school since her husband wouldn't be able to leave work, simultaneously caring for patients. Hospital staff organizing volunteer shifts, sharing information about resources, and coordinating transportation to and from protests. Countless examples of people checking in with each other. So many of our colleagues are immigrants themselves, and so many more have loved ones who immigrated here. Healthcare professionals sitting at the bedside of terrified patients, holding space for their fears and grief while trying to suppress their own. Healthcare professionals who want our community to know, we are here for you. You belong here. We will do everything in our power to keep you safe. And you'll love this one. Nurses on my small unit reminding each other to breathe, to eat, to take a break, and even passing around Pema Chodron's pocketbook. Yeah, you know I love that, Megan. I love Pema Chodron. Everybody should be reading her right now. Right now, the situation, she writes, in the Twin Cities is hour to hour, even minute to minute. And especially for immigrant families, it's inescapable. You open your phone to check in with a family member, and there's a new video of ICE agents brutalizing someone. You need to go to the grocery store, but you check if there's ICE activity nearby. While you're making dinner, you remind yourself it's been a few days since you rehearsed what your immigrant family member should say if they're stopped. You pack your lunch for work, and you remember you need to print off an instructional card for interacting with agents to clip to your badge. You tuck your child into bed, and you wonder how you can possibly guard their innocence and keep them safe. You go to bed and have nightmares. All that said, Pete, we know we'll get through it. We're smart, we're brave, we love each other. We've been here before, and we're up for the fight. She also added some resources to local news organizations and activist organizations and legal organizations that I will share in the email. And she said some real nice things about Mom and my family, which is amazing because, of course she is, because you all are. Because this is an amazing community of caring, thoughtful, loving, kind, generous, hilarious, and righteous people who care about each other, who care about strangers. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it and to be here with you. Thank you so much, Megan, for sharing that update. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable and powerful. I hope that everybody who heard that draws strength from yours. So there you go, and I hope to talk more about that and everything else at tonight's Hangout. All right, let us see what else I've got for you in headlines and news. Really hard to know what's going on in Iran. Reports of over 12,000 feared dead after protests. Tension is rising with every other country in Iran, including our own. Our insane president says that Iran has told him the killing has stopped as he's pulled back from the threats of striking them, but I'm not sure we should believe them. No reason to take his dubious claims face value, especially since Tehran has indicated fast trials and executions ahead of its crackdown on protests. But it is crazy what is happening there, and really hard to know. I've not been following it very closely, but a major story that we've got to keep an eye on, of course. Also read this yesterday. The State Department said that it will suspend the processing of immigrant visas for citizens of 75 countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, Russia, and Somalia, whose nationals, like the Trump regime, has deemed likely to require public assistance while living in the United States. So if they're likely to require public assistance, then they can't come here. Might as well take down the Statue of Liberty, I suppose. Or just, put her in a different position, give her a MAGA hat. Homeland Security Secretary and cosplay fake action star Kristi Noem said Tuesday her agency is revoking temporary protected status from Somali migrants. Another move by the regime to escalate its clash with Minnesota, where they have our nation's largest Somali population, who you just heard are absolutely amazing people. More from Minnesota. Renee Good's family is apparently accusing federal immigration officers of killing the Minneapolis mother as she attempted to follow agent instructions. They've now hired the same law firm that represented George Floyd's family to press for answers and accountability. Good. I hope they get some. News on the climate crisis. The world is rapidly closing in on the 1.5 degree Celsius warming limit that serves as a threshold for ever more dangerous climate change. European scientists have warned average global temperatures are now around 1.4 Celsius higher than during the pre-industrial era, according to data released Wednesday by the European Union's Copernicus Planetary Observation Service, scientists also found that 2025 was the third hottest year on record. Oh, only the third. We did it. There's a lot more information on that study that's just come out. The Republican-controlled House is focused on the most important issue for Americans, shower heads. That's right. That's what they're working on in the House. They've advanced legislation aimed at fulfilling Don Juan's long-running desire to make showers great again by voting to loosen federal efficiency standards for shower heads, because that's what we're concerned about. The U.S. and Denmark are clashing over Greenland. Hours before the leaders of Greenland and Denmark met with U.S. officials yesterday in Washington, Trump declared the U.S. needs Greenland and that anything less than American control of the island would be unacceptable. Afterward, the foreign minister of Denmark, which controls Greenland, said that our perspectives continue to differ. He did suggest the frank meeting resulted in progress. The leaders agreed to form a group to find a path to accommodate our malignant narcissist president's security concerns. And European nations are now sending troops to Greenland. So that seems great. That's a insane story that I can't believe we have to consider talking about. And like 4% of Americans think that's a good idea in a recent poll, apparently. The FBI has searched the home of a Washington Post reporter. I talk about that with Jeff Jarvis coming up. The administration has now cut more than $2 billion in funding to programs that provide services for addiction prevention, treatment and recovery, as well as mental health, which is hard to believe, and I want to dig into a lot more. And apparently Burger Gene King has decided to make whole milk great again. That's right. Yesterday he signed a bill allowing schools to serve whole milk again because, right, it's so much healthier. NASA has begun the evacuation of 4 astronauts from the International Space Station because of a crew member's medical issue. Grocery prices are continuing to rise. The parent company of Saks, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman has filed for bankruptcy. What stores are even left at this point? Those are the headlines that I've gathered for you this morning. And now I've got a few clips starting with the governor of Minnesota. It's Tim Walz with an impassioned plea that he made yesterday.
What's happening in Minnesota right now defies belief. News reports simply don't do justice to the level of chaos and disruption and trauma the federal government is raining down upon our communities. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools, they're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. This week, he went online to promise that, quote, the day of retribution and reckoning is coming. That's a direct threat against the people of this state who dared to vote against him 3 times and who continue to stand up for freedom with courage and empathy and profound grace.
Yes, a really great message from the governor of Minnesota, who continues to lead his state even though he's not running for re-election. And now here's even stupid Joe Rogan is saying something similar on his very influential, unfortunately, influential show.
Horrific to me. I mean, when people say it's justifiable because the car hit him. And then I can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to? So it's more complicated than I think people want to admit. You know, people want to look at this as a black and white issue, you know, if you're a compassionate person or if you're a pragmatic person. And I don't think that's true. I think it's both.
All right. Well, just a couple of clips there on that issue, obviously. This I thought was great. This is James Tellerico. He's running for Texas Senate, and he is a Democrat, of course. He sat down with Ezra Klein, the New York Times podcast. I thought this was a very good distillation of the hypocrisy of Republican politicians and others who call themselves Christian.
These politicians want a Christian nation unless it means providing health care to the sick, or funding food assistance for the hungry, or raising the minimum wage for the poor. And so it seems like they want to base our laws on the Bible until they read the words of Jesus, welcome the stranger, liberate the oppressed, put away your sword, sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor. I mean, I'm not exactly sure a Christian nation is really what these people want. Again, I believe the separation of church and state is sacred. I think a nation with one supreme religion is not just un-American. I also think it's un-Christian, given how Jesus taught about religious supremacy. But I do think if these people are going to call for a Christian nation, they need to reach for all of it. And that is, I fought the bill to require the 10 Commandments posted in every classroom. And I've often wondered, instead of posting the 10 Commandments in every classroom, why don't they post money is the root of all evil in every boardroom? Why don't they post do not judge in every courtroom? Why don't they post turn the other cheek in the halls of the Pentagon? Or it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. This is the inconsistency I'm trying to call out, because they're using my tradition. They're speaking for me. And so I think I have a special moral responsibility to combat Christian nationalism wherever I see it.
There you go. I thought that was really good and powerful and important. And now here is Zohran Mamdani, one of the major city mayors of America, who is being threatened by this administration of having their federal funding taken from them if they don't do exactly what phony Soprano is threatening.
Our values and our laws cannot be bargaining chips. I will always defend this city and every single person who calls this city home, even in the face of threats from the federal administration to withhold funds.
Just following up on Linda's question, I know you do speak to President Trump. Have you spoken to President Trump since he announced earlier today that he would cut funding to sanctuary cities, including New York? And I know you said that you will fight back, but if there is a funding that is dried up, how will the city make up for that missing what could be billions of dollars?
So I reached out to President Trump to express my sharp opposition to this decision and to make my values clear. And I will always continue to do so, whether to the president or to all New Yorkers, to be honest, about where I actually stand. I've yet to hear back from the president, and this is the position I hold as the mayor of New York City.
What is the plan if the money is cut off?
There are many threats that are made to New York City on a regular basis, and I am confident in our city's ability to fight those threats back. And we've also seen, whether it be in the courts or whether it be beyond that, our ability to win those fights. Yes.
Well done. Well said. Good leader. That's what a good leader sounds like. Here's Jon Stewart on The Daily Show Monday night. Just a short couple thoughts. The jokes didn't work because they're all visual, but I did like this and then grabbed it.
In America today, Donald Trump is the sun. And if you revolve around him and worship him, his warmth shines upon you. You could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose his support, as long as it's done on his behalf. But if you do not support him, if you live in the darkness of what I guess we will refer to from now on as blue states, fearing the day he turns his terrible wrath towards you, whether you're a single human woman on a side street somewhere in Minneapolis or a sovereign nation that happens to have land and resources that we, a larger sovereign nation, think we also might want. And so his people are making a bet that adhering to a principle of forced compliance and coercion will give us a more stable and prosperous America than a principle of shared alliance and common interest. It's kind of a tough bet because I read somewhere, I don't know where, that people have inalienable rights granted by a creator, not a king.
And then he pivots to a visual gag. But I thought that was really profoundly well written and delivered by Jon Stewart. Now, here are some laughs. Here's Jimmy Kimmel on ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live last night.
Well, what a great time for us to be hosting the Olympics. All the other countries love us right now. It's net migration in the United States is down for the first time in 50 years. In case you're wondering why Stephen Miller got a boner in the middle of his staff meeting this morning. Last year, we had around 300,000 more people leaving the country than coming in. And that's before this morning when the State Department announced they will suspend processing immigrant visas from 75 countries. What happened to it? We used to be the cool nightclub everybody wanted to get into. Now we're an abandoned Hooters. It's the president's new crusade to turn to turn the nation of Greenland into Orangeland is not helping. The foreign ministers from Greenland and Denmark met with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio today to discuss this situation. What they had to discuss, I don't know. You want to take us? We don't want to be took. That's pretty much it, and that's basically how the meeting went. The Danish foreign minister said they have a fundamental disagreement and agreed to disagree, but the prime minister of Greenland was a little more blunt. Trump said, I'm going to take action on Greenland whether they like it or not. And according to their prime minister, they most certainly do not.
Greenland does not want to be owned by the USA. Greenland does not want to be governed by the USA. Greenland will not be part of the USA.
Why didn't Venezuela think of politely saying no? I mean, the guy in the hoodie figured it out. Listen, Trump's not really an ask for consent kind of a guy. He doesn't have to ask. When you're a star, they just let you. And, of course, they don't want to be part of the United States right now. Nobody wants to be. People from the United States don't want to be part of the United States right now.
All right, good stuff from Jimmy Kimmel last night. Love it. And now it's time to get to my guests. How about it? All right, let's start with Mediaite's founding editor, Peabody Award-winning television producer. Actually, yesterday he was tangling with Bill O'Reilly on his show, which is really good. I love Colby Hall, and you should follow him on all of the social media platforms. Everything is linked in the show notes, as it is to all my guests. And definitely check out Mediaite. I stop there several times a day, and Colby is always writing great things, including the two pieces that I spoke with him about today that you can find at Mediaite right now. One is titled Enough is Enough, and the other is Renee Good's Killing Reveals Why Fact-Based Journalism Loses the Narrative Battle. It's really interesting and important. Let's do it right now with Colby Hall, who I caught up with, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and then after that, the great Jeff Jarvis. I've got Colby Hall with me because I really wanted to catch up on a couple of things, and he's got more. He's always posting over at Mediaite, but he's got two really important pieces that I wanted to talk about, and I'm very happy that you were able to join me. You're continuing to do great work and really explain things in a way that very few others are able to do, especially when it comes to media and politics and the intersection. So let's do it. How are you feeling about it all?
I'm not feeling great, and I'm over it. And
what is this moment that we're in? Is there a name for this moment that we're in? It's the second year of Trump. It's, there's just so many things that are happening, stories at once. And I guess it's a continuance, I feel like, but it's the beginning of the year. It's run up to a midterm election. I don't know how to name it. There's so much.
I think we're sort of overloaded. I wrote a thing at the end of last year about the fire hose of content of 2025. And I just, it started as a thought experiment. All of the controversies, every month under the Trump administration. And it became very, very clear that this administration uses an overwhelming amount of scandal and conflict and confrontation and crazy, bonkers things that are said as a means to sort of anesthetize or numb us into, being overwhelmed. And there's a reason why we forget about the dumb sort of Trump resort in Gaza, or the sort of idea that, that he held a Tesla, car showroom on the lawn, right? Like, we forget about these really bonkers, crazy things because there just is always something new to distract us. However, cutting to just this last week, starting with an invasion in Venezuela, and then, a federal agent that lethally killed a protester, and then sort of even Sunday, like bullshit criminal charges of Jerome Powell. Like, this is where authoritarianism is here. And so I wrote a column today called Enough is Enough.
Yeah, it's a great column, and you mention, of course, the invasion. You say last week the United States extracted a foreign leader by military force without congressional authorization. Federal agents shot a protester and were immediately defended before investigation, and the president threatened additional unilateral military action. Taken together, they describe a presidency operating on the assumption that no one will intervene that expectation is the point. Enough is enough is the title of it. It's a great piece. Tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to say here, because it's a very important thing that you're saying. Several things.
I'm afraid that we're losing our country. And this is not a Democratic Republican thing. This is a constitutional thing. This is a sort of do the right thing. Like we've become a country that abides by power. Like we suddenly abide by like a might makes right ethos, which I learned in college was something that we graduated from and was the sort of beginning of democracy and sort of, knowledge and doing the right thing. And we're in a global stage, like we're the bad guys. Like we're the ones who are suddenly just saying, oh, we want Greenland. We need Greenland. We're just going to take Greenland. Either we're going to do it the easy way or the hard way. We're no different from colonialist sort of empirical Russia under Putin, if that follows through. And, this rush to sort of defend a masked ICE agent, the fact that these ICE agents have to wear masks, I think is such a tell and so revealing. And okay, so I don't know what was in Renee Good's heart. I don't know what was in the ICE agent's heart. Obviously, these narratives were developed before we saw any evidence. And so then when we actually saw the video evidence, it confirmed what we wanted to believe. But the fact that there's people that are sort of rushing to defend, like this ICE agent who killed a woman extrajudiciously, and we're raising money for him and celebrating him. Because
are they raising money? Again, I've been a little out of there's like a GoFundMe for the guy who killed the lady, and hopefully one for her family as well.
I don't know about I wrote this morning about how the GoFundMe Bill Ackman gave $10,000. Megyn Kelly was very proud to give money to this. Like it's sort of all the predictable. Raised over $600,000 for this individual, and it was posted and promoted by a right-wing sort of news reporter. I forget what it's called. They're in Minneapolis. They were the first to suddenly leak or get the the camera footage from the ICE agent that shot and killed Renee Good. Huh. But in that copy, they say, Jacob Frey, who is Jewish. So there's a clear anti-Semitic vibe to this whole thing, which, what is going on right now? Like, what is happening to our country? I'm tired of just saying, can you believe it? This is crazy. It's bonkers. Like, I just don't want to sit back and say, where were you when this happened? Like, I want to we need to do something more than hold up funny signs and post them on Instagram. We got to get our fucking shit together, because this is not the America. My Sly and the Family Stone American flag album cover suddenly looks really good, but this isn't a Republican Democratic thing. This is a
Let me read what you wrote, because I got it right in front of me, unless you've got it right in front of you. But you wrote, every member of Congress, every federal judge, every military officer, and every naturalized citizen has taken the same oath, not to a party, not to a president, not to a political movement, to the Constitution of the United States. That oath is not ceremonial. It's a binding commitment that matters precisely in moments like this, when power tests limits and institutions hesitate. Veterans who swore that oath recognize that what is at risk when military force is deployed without authorization. Judges understand the stakes when executive action is defended before facts are established. And citizens who chose this country know what is being lost when constitutional constraints are treated as negotiable. The question is not whether you supported this administration or opposed it. The question is whether that oath still means something. And you say the American protest infrastructure has evolved to accommodate dissent without demanding a response, which I thought was really true, and it made me sad that it was, because I've been very much a part of the American protest infrastructure. But you're right, permits are issued, marches are contained, outrage is expressed and absorbed. This is not a failure of protesters. It is a feature of a system that has learned how to metabolize opposition while continuing to function unchanged. What is required now is presence that cannot be metabolized or ignored. Go on.
So I wrote a thing about the No Kings protest, which I think was laudable and really good, but sometimes I wonder how effective or even sort of it sort of lances the boil and releases the toxic anger that we have, and it gives the impression that we're actually doing something and making some sort of change. We post the Instagram photos. I did this thing. It's a little virtue signally, and yet nothing changes as a result. And, obviously, the vote is what we do. But, I've heard, but I don't know that protests are really anything more than making us feel good. They help. We're heard. I don't know what there else is to do. Storm the Capitol. That seemed to be effective in 2020, January 6th.
Protest is necessary, but it's one step. And I think that we need more actions and more consequences. And I'm not sure what to do about that. I look to the past often, but we need... we've never been here. Certainly this generation of Americans, much less the previous probably, and others, have not been here. I would argue everybody says, it was so much worse in Vietnam and all these things. And it's just, I think it's just so much different. The media landscape especially, which brings me to this other piece of yours, which I think is super important to discuss. And this is the kind of thing that even discussing it, even have to... I could see someone reading your piece and getting upset. So I just want to say off the top of the head before we get into a little nuance about how the title of this is. Renee Good's killing reveals why fact-based journalism loses the narrative battle, but it doesn't do the piece enough justice. And so I just want to say I haven't read every article and seen every review, and I don't have an original hot take as usual. And this happened days ago, so people are hardened. Just quickly so people know, I believe this woman is a victim. And I generally believe, almost always, that law enforcement doesn't have to use the type of force that it does. I think they go overboard all the time. I think we talk too much about the killings and not nearly enough about the everyday abuse that is also way overboard. I'll never not criticize law enforcement for those reasons. And so my bias is clear, and I think that this woman is clearly the victim. I don't care about anything she's ever done in her life or anything about her or why she was there. Don't care. If I found out that she was at another scene shooting people and they knew that, but us watching the video did not, that would be different. And that is what I think your piece is about, which is not at all about her and being at another scene, but it's about the idea that we draw these conclusions very fast, get very hardened, and it's a really important point for you to talk more about than I did, and I've already gone too long. So?
Well, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy at many levels. And what quickly happened was news broke of a shooting in Minneapolis at an ICE protest, and before any of the evidence emerged or any investigation, the administration officials, namely Kristi Noem, put out a statement and said, basically bald-faced lies that ICE agents were stuck in the snow while they were trying to push their car out of the snow. They were surrounded by protesters, and one protester tried to attack an officer with her car, and she was shot and killed. The footage came out, and so everyone heard that and said, oh, well, let's see what it is. And as it turns out, you watch it, and it's become this ridiculous Rorschach test. If you believe that the ICE agents their mission is pure, and you're a big Trump supporter, and you like everything that they're doing, you're going to see that and find that the ICE agent was impossibly justified by shooting this woman in the face and taking her life. And many other people. And I will say also, by the way, Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, they don't come out of this looking great because they also went to this quick narrative and quick to blame the ICE agents before. They were less sort of fallacious than Kristi Noem was and President Trump was. Am I calling this victim a sort of a left-wing extremist domestic terrorist? Like, none of that is true, right? She was a protester. It appeared to me that she was clearly driving away. Even if she was driving right next to the dude, she didn't deserve to die. And the fact that people are just overlooking that tragedy is crazy to me. But the point of the article...
Just real quick. I'm for always letting people get away who are nonviolent criminals. And if someone had just killed a bunch of people, I'm not for letting that. But for any other crime that you might have committed, like theft or even something, just let him get away, and we could have a talk about how we chase them because people get hurt in chases. But like the idea that you would look at someone who's not going to of any harm to anybody, clearly let them get away. It's okay.
Well, so it speaks to
live.
ICE agents are not trained very well, right? These are individuals who are sort of paramilitary organization. They appear to be their mission is ostensibly to extract and deport people, which is weird unto itself. But also they're very, very pro-Trump. This is the sort of like Trump paramilitary group, right? And they're not trained. And I disagree with you with the cop thing. I mean, I will say that I'm a supporter of our law enforcement. I think 98, 99% of our cops do a very tough but good job. The issue I have is the lack of accountability in the bad apples that spoil the whole crop. And you go back to, there's endless examples of that where people did really bad things and they weren't held to account. This ICE agent, is now being deified by the right because it's part of a larger culture war. And so the point of the story that I wrote was the narrative surrounding this whole ordeal, took wind and was passed around social media and hardened, whereas journalism, which relies on facts and caution and friction to understand that they're getting the story right, that takes some time. And so by the time the facts begin to emerge, people have already made up their mind. And it's that to me is the scariest dystopian part of this whole thing, is that we live in a sort of subjective world where journalism and facts not only don't matter, but we can't even agree on them. We've lost a shared sense of reality. We see this video, which is this sort of like idea that like, oh, we're seeing the objective truth. Video isn't always that clear, right? As evidenced by this. But we've lost the plot. We are so unmoored from reality because we no longer have the same shared experience where we can agree on, oh, we're living in the same world. We're living in the same truth. And that's abstract and it's a bit of a philosophical wank. And no one wants to talk about that. But it's deeply, deeply troubling because it's being weaponized by, I think, bad actors who want to exploit that to do things that go beyond what, sort of we've long accepted as part of our social fabric. That's so frayed. And it's being exploited by this administration. And, it's getting back to the first, I'm tired of it. I think enough is enough. We have to call this out and we have to call bullshit and, figure what do we do? I've heard national strike. I think that may cut off our nose to spite our face. But we at least have to talk about how far we've gotten from the standards that has made us, a nation that I've long believed in. And now my faith is wobbling.
Faith is wobbling. Easy does it, buddy. Easy. Slow your roll. Never give up. Never give up faith, even when it's like, the sun is setting, big guy.
Right.
I just went to Marvel. You're right. That is the deeper problem obscured by talking of competing realities. The issue is not that Americans disagree about what they see. It is that the race to define what is seen has become so fast and so decisive that disagreement hardens into certainty before truth has a chance to catch up. Accountability does not disappear in that environment. It becomes another thing people choose to accept or reject based on a team. When narrative velocity replaces evidentiary patience, even video stops being a path to shared understanding. It becomes fuel for a fight that was framed long before the facts arrived. So those last two sentences are fucking really exquisite. When narrative velocity replaces evidentiary patience, even video stops being a path to a shared understanding. It's so good.
Thank you. The key there is that we've lost the shared understanding. We're really we're so hardened and divided that when we can see, and in the fact that there are many people with whom I disagree who have no problem that this mother of a 6-year-old now orphan was shot in the face by an ICE agent because she drove very close to him and may have nicked his leg. Okay, so, was she trying to kill him? I don't know what she was doing. It appeared to me like she was trying to get away. It didn't seem like she was using her vehicle as an assault weapon. And he shot her from the side of the car. He clearly was driving past her. It was a bang, bang moment, but I think I saw evidence of an agent who was not trained, who was being sort of bully, and also knew that there would be no accountability, that no matter what happened, he was going to have the support of this administration. He just got $600,000 richer now because of this. And the whole thing is so vile and disgusting. And should she have played with her car? Should she have done this? No, maybe not. However, should she maybe have been cuffed or given a ticket or, tried in court? Sure.
I disagree, and I want to be clear about it. Like, I'm for peaceful protests. I'm for putting your body and your car in the way of ICE agents. I'm for it. And I also, more importantly, to your point, I want to know that that's what happened. I think the public deserves to know if this was a mom who dropped off her kid at school and got stuck in the snow or whatever it might be, versus a mom who was trained to do this and did it voluntarily, because either one of those matters the same to me. Like, I support the protest movement. I'm glad that she and others are putting their body in the way. I applaud it. I think that is what needs to happen. I think that's what you're calling for, even though it's uncomfortable to see. These are, oftentimes affluent, better heeled people protecting undocumented immigrants who they know, who they're neighbors with, who they work with, who work for them. And I'm for that. And I understand that these law enforcement agents are doing what they're told to do. They're untrained. They shouldn't be assigned to this job. But regardless, that still doesn't mean that a person who puts their car in the way of police who are not chasing a murderer should be murdered herself. What do you think? I'm getting anything too far? Am I being too? I
was trying to play devil's advocate against my own argument, but I agree with you 100%.
Oh.
The fact that she was shot in the face and killed in front of her partner, I gather, and was she protesting in a way that was like the idea that somehow protesting like cops is so bad. I mean, I guess they were arguing that they were impeding an investigation. Okay, so even that, like, in what world is it okay to even sort of not celebrate, but say that it's okay that she lost her life? And then what followed, and you may have missed this, was this character assassination and smear campaign that she was this domestic terrorist and that she was,
I didn't miss it because I walked out the store the other day and saw the front page of the New York Post. And I heard what the vice president said, and I heard what the president said, and all these right-wing media people, and probably all kinds of other Republicans. I don't know, but it's just I don't know. I feel like that's not very manly to blame victims.
It's not even manly. I don't know. It's gendered. It's just not.
I gender it because these are all men leading it, and Megyn Kelly. But all the women who support him are also manly. I say they're holding up patriarchy.
It's also not very Christian, and I don't want to get religious, but these guys wrap themselves and sort of get super duper religious, and yet here they are. Like, who would Jesus want to have shot in the face? Right? Like that's this is. I mean, this is. I guess the larger point, I don't really want to bring religion to it, I already did.
Well, religion is
of hypocrisy here that are really, or differing standards. And then I wrote a thing earlier as well. On January 6th was the 5-year anniversary, and the White House put out this website that sort of was filled with lies. And they blamed the innocent death and the killing of Ashley Babbitt. You cannot exonerate Ashley Babbitt.
You wrote a great piece about this, yeah.
And then blame Renee Good and say that Jake Tapper did a great job of this yesterday on the State of the Union, where he showed to Kristi Noem footage of cops being beaten by Trump supporters on January 6th, and he said, by your own standard, then they should have or could have shot all of them and killed them based on the logic of the Renee Good. And she couldn't answer. She stumbled. It was like, well, every case is different. Like, dude, the only difference is these people are pardoned because they were Trump supporters. And that, the idea of innocence is some sort of loyalty test, is authoritarian. It's
a great point. You could be I could hate you for all of your views and opinions and everything you've said in your life. You're a right-wing MAGA, white supremacist, but you didn't commit the crime that I'm accusing you of.
Right. Well, so this gets
other
back
people
to
are accusing you of.
It's like, what fucked up world are we in right now where, like, you know, we can say that the protesters, the people that this dark day, this day of infamy of like assaulting the Capitol, they get pardoned, and this, you know, single mom of a 6-year-old, you know, is protesting ICE agents, which are very controversial and didn't appear to be hurting anyone, maybe nicked a guy's leg as she was driving by. She gets shot in the face and then is blamed for it. Like, literally, you said it, blaming the victim. And, you know, I'm sorry to be all, I wish I had a clear answer to how this goes. My column today, the Enough is Enough, is like, I'm sick of people just like accepting it as normal, and we can no longer accept that.
It's a great piece, and you said it really well in that piece. I hope everybody will go read and share that. Colby Hall, Mediaite, real good of you to join me on short notice. As always, love talking to you, love reading you, love looking upon you. As you know, I have
hey girl
a lot of look at you, even in the winter.
I'm a little pale, I'm a little pasty, and you know, it's the cocaine. The cocaine habit really keeps.
You're not supposed to put it on your face.
Oh, I don't see a downside. I don't know how I don't do cocaine. That's a joke, people.
I still have never seen cocaine in my life, except for on those boats that we keep killing people on. Apparently,
do you not watch movies?
I've seen it on TV. I've never seen it in real life. I've never seen cocaine. You would think with my career and my success and the, you know, my social network, my likability,
your energy, like you're sort of like fit and like sort of wired. You know, you on blow would be like, hey, you're already a lot.
You would think with my energy and my fitness, all that's true, but I can't stay awake past like 9:30, and I have to take 2 naps. So yeah,
isn't that funny? Like you get to a point in your life where I'm just like, oh, it's 9:30. I can't wait to go to bed.
I'm sorry. I love that you think I got to that point in my life recently. My friends used to make fun of me. They'd be like, oh, Dominic's out. It's 10 p.m.
There was a party Saturday night that went late. And I was like, oh, it's 11. Like, I'm tired of hearing my own voice. Like, I want to go home and dream.
I like that you went to a party. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, I'm sorry about your parents. I'm glad that they're healing.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. There he goes. Colby Hall, everybody. Yeah. Wasn't that a good conversation? I can't really capture those pieces that he wrote at Mediaite, but I highly recommend reading them. Okay. All right. There goes Colby Hall, and now it's time to bring in the great Jeff Jarvis, who I absolutely adore as a man, as a person. He's just got such great character and moral clarity, and he's so clear-headed about things and so open-minded all at the same time. Of course, Jeff has written several books. He's been a professor of journalism at the Newmark School in New York City, and now he's at Stony Brook University out in Long Island. To learn more and to support Jeff, go to buzzmachine.com. Follow him on Medium and Threads and Blue Sky and Twitter, where he is still posting. And you can always hear from him here and several other podcasts, but Jeff is the best, and we caught up yesterday. You can watch it on YouTube or Substack. Let's do it. All right, Jeff Jarvis. Look who I got. I wanted to catch up on everything that's happening and talk to my friend. And I always love everything that he's posting and saying and talking about and writing and his numerous podcast appearances. He's just the perfect guy to talk to on my second day back to work after my mom's accident. He knows all about. Thank you very much for being available today. I have so many news issues and developments I want to discuss with you. Thank you.
But your mom's doing better. She's out of ICU, you said.
Mom is out of ICU, and she's getting spicy. With everybody. She's cracking a lot of jokes. She's working blue, which I didn't expect, but that's what fentanyl.
Is it the drugs, or is it mom's true nature?
It's mom's true humor with some of the words she might not have used prior. Maybe some of the gestures you might not have seen in previous appearances of mom.
My mother was a brittle diabetic, and she was hated when I used bad words, but when she had an insulin reaction, they came out of her.
Oh, yeah. It's wild. It's a real truth serum. The experience itself is. But I just have to say, I mean, I'm going to talk more about this, but let me get your take on it. Anybody that works in a hospital, I don't care if you're security or maintenance or a physician or a nurse, they're all like heroes. I don't know how I could imagine doing that for a few days and be like, oh, this is such a fascinating job and I feel purposeful. But after like day 3 of some patient yelling at you or getting the flu for the 9th time, there's so many obstacles in the way, challenges and adversity to overcome. When you walk in the hospital, I've always respected healthcare workers, but man, are they essential and important. I just have a newfound appreciation, I guess, for lack of a better phrase.
So I don't mean to trivialize this in Hollywood terms, but just last night I finished watching season 1 of The Pit.
Yeah, I kind of want to watch some of these things now after spending the week in the hospital. Maybe I shouldn't.
Oh, yeah. And it's superb. I mean, it's just amazing. And it has characters. I mean, not to do any spoilers, but there's a Karen in the last episode who's against vaccines. You know, they have to deal with their own emotions and their anger and they're losing people and the trauma that is. It's superb because I think you're right. And especially now when health, science are under attack by the government institutions associated with them, the more we pay tribute to the courage and intelligence and experience and education that people in medicine have, the better.
Yeah. All really good points, especially just the fact that they're under attack. And anytime they're underappreciated or underpaid or underfunded, absolutely. And I got to watch that show. Somebody at the Golden Globes the other night said, Noah Wyle, you've been my doctor for 35 years. He's just played that one role.
No.
What was your comment? Speaking of which, let's get into it. What was your comment about Hollywood needs to do more to show up, to stand up against the tyranny we're seeing? Let's start with that.
So I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I watched part of the Golden Globes, but not enough to come to a blanket assertion about them. And then last night, God bless her, she's the best, Nicole Wallace had on Oliver Darcy, who I think is the best at media coverage and criticism. And she devoted 2 blocks to talking about the dereliction, these are my words, the dereliction of morality, the ethical vacuity of Hollywood, is that no one used their privilege and position and power on that stage to talk about Nicole Good, to talk about the fascism that we're under, to talk about the things that they used to talk about in these cases. And, you know, it's not just standing up at an awards show and giving a glib comment, not unlike social media. It's also about what is Hollywood making. You know, back in the day, and I think you and I have discussed this, I think in a great measure that Hollywood made gay marriage possible in this country. Hollywood had an impact on civil rights and racial relations in this country. Hollywood's not standing up right now. And I think that cuts across movies, TV, to an extent music, though folks pointed out to me that Tori Amos has an important album coming out. The Boss has been outspoken on this. There's the wonderful Jesse Wells, who's been resurrecting the protest song. So there are moments, but as a whole, Hollywood, I think, is proving to be, again, morally bankrupt. A vacuum. Did you watch the Golden Globe? You were a little busy.
I watched a few clips, but I watched a few clips. You know, I saw Mark Ruffalo, as usual, on the red carpet saying something. And I don't know, maybe the right people didn't win. And the other thing, the question is always popularity and not stirring the boat. You're going to make more money, be more popular, they would say, if you're going to be safer. But at the same time, you know, maybe some of the right people didn't win. Maybe they didn't want to take risk. I'm not excusing any of it. I mean, if only Sean Penn had won, he probably would have said something, right? But also, we're paying attention, maybe too much attention to the most famous people. But a platform's a platform. You get a huge platform, which is why everybody's always used the Academy Awards or any other award show or any other stage, the podium at the Olympics, to raise a fist, right?
Yeah, and especially if you're a white, male, cis, in my case, retired person, and I don't have a platform. I mean, I blather all the time. There's no courage on my part. But if you stand up and use it and cash it in at those moments, it matters. It has an impact. And I'm just sorely, sorely disappointed in our American entertainment leaders.
Let's talk about a few other things, obviously, that we got to discuss. Go from Hollywood to media. A lot is being said about CBS News since it's been taken over by Barry Weiss. It's been kind of gutted of some of the best journalists in the business, for sure. And at least the ones that we see on camera, a lot of the John Dickersons and more. But now you've got this guy, Tony Dokoupil, and he's angry.
Dokoupil. You have to cope with Tony. It's Dokoupil.
And his first week ratings, none too good. Can we blame him, or is that just legacy media, the corporate media, the networks? None of them do.
It's down almost a quarter from a year ago. I think we can blame him and Barry. I think that they've ruined it. And actually, you would have thought there would have been a lot more curiosity at the beginning. Oh, who's this square-jawed guy there? Gee, it looks like broadcast news. And in fact, it had hints of the plot of broadcast news as Tony cried in Miami, showing tears the same way there was a major plot point in that movie. It's a disaster. Katie Couric asked me to write about it, and it is pure state television.
Really?
The administration.
It's that overt.
It's that overt. He gives now I haven't watched the last 3 nights. I've done my part, but I watched the first 4 nights or so. And I watched last night though with Trump. Every night, it's as if, it's your turn, member of the Trump cabinet. And so Pete Hegseth was on when he jumped on Saturday after Venezuela. Pete Hegseth was on for 3 blocks, 9 minutes, half the show, which is unprecedented in the evening news. And there were wiffle ball questions, and it was just American chest beating macho bullshit. What a great show this was. And then he has Kristi Noem on, and then he praises Marco Rubio as what a Florida man he is.
I did see that. That was disappointing, to say the least.
It was very disappointing. So it's been just plain awful, Pete. Barry Weiss, according to the New York Times, is in a panic about it, is trying to blame all our subordinates. Why can't you make this bad press stop? Why can't you make a good show, Barry? Because you're an idiot. Yeah. You have no experience at this. Then a few other interesting things come around here. One is that according to, and I don't have, there's not full confirmation of this, but there's a report about Barry pimping CBS, wanting to come up with a Friday segment with Tony and whiskey, and a leaked or made up, you don't know in these AI days, set design came out with Jack Daniels in there, and then Jack Daniels turned out and said, well, we don't know anything, it's not us. But it's obviously what she intends as a sponsor position with product placement in the news. That's just not done.
Branded segments in the news. Like, I'm Tony DeCouple and I love Jack Daniels, like live reads.
It goes back to the old days where news anchors used to smoke and pimp cigarettes, right? So that's going on. But the fascinating thing, just this afternoon, Katie Tour is on, who of course is Tony's wife. And she was on her regular show, and at the end of the first hour, she did a rather impassioned soliloquy about all the lines that Trump has passed and about how minority MAGA is in charge of the country. And it was as if she was trying very hard to separate herself from her husband and his reputation these days. And that's got to be a very interesting dynamic over the breakfast table, I think, because they each have very different brands now, shall we say. She's on the liberal network, and he is doing state TV.
Yeah, state TV. That's what we're calling it now. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy. It's so sad. Used to love CBS. There's got to be some good stuff left over there. What about that CBS This Morning? Jane Pauley, isn't she? Margaret Brennan seems to taken a turn, too, editorially, with some of her questions, which is really disappointing because I think she's great. But it seems to be that they're all being forced to editorially make changes, not to mention personnel over. I mean, so many changes. It's over. State TV. All right.
My bottom line in the end, I mean, I decried and lamented all that had happened to CBS. And it was interesting writing this for Katie Couric's site because she, of course, was an anchor there. But in the end, I say it doesn't matter. Networks don't matter. Evening news doesn't matter. The median age is 58 at CBS. Audience is down to about 4 million. Walter Cronkite's last year was 16 million. At 4 million, it's barely over 1% of the country watches CBS. It doesn't matter. Mass media are dead. Don't matter.
All right. Well, there's the update on Tony DeCouple, Peel, whatever. And it's so weird that he and Katie Tur are married, and they are anchors of 2 major legacy network news broadcasts, and yet seem to be real different. Well, I'm sure their kids are beautiful. They're beautiful people,
I would imagine. But the other thing is that, and Katie wrote about this in her book, Trump attacked her in all kinds of ways in the 2016 campaign. And, it's like Marco Rubio forgetting Trump's insults to his own family. Or Ted Cruz, I mean.
I have a chip on my shoulder against Katie Tur because I interviewed her for that book at SiriusXM, and when I called Trump a white supremacist, she pushed back so hard and didn't want anything to do with that being associated with that comment. And I did it on purpose because I figured that would be what would happen. But I mean, I think that's where you separate people. You know, if you couldn't see it then and call it then, covering the campaign, then, you know, you're part of the problem. I've always felt that way. She's obviously joined the rest of us on Earth One, it would seem, in some ways, although she's not very – I see a lot of criticism on –
Well, she gets lots of criticism from the left. Yeah, I'm not me. I found it very interesting because it seemed to stand out for her today. She seemed to go to an effort to try to reestablish herself on the left.
Speaking of MS Now – you watch a good bit, and you watch Morning Joe, so we don't have to. And you said, I saw some rant of yours. I mean, one of the things, folks, just to pull back the curtain, I love following Jeff on social media, on Twitter still, on Blue Sky, Threads. But I then ask him about all these things whenever we talk in our interviews here, our conversations here. And one of the things I saw was that you were ranting about Joe Scarborough is apparently talking about the good old days of republicanism and conservatism and when are we going to return? Like that's in any way a possible future. What happened? How did he hurt you?
So, you know, on the one hand, Joe's been good. He called it fascism before others did. He has been, ever since Nicole Good, he has been decrying what happened in Minneapolis. He has been pointing out what a terrible thing it is. He's been saying all the right stuff, but it always comes back with him to imagining that there's an ability to recapture his ideal Republican Party. So the quote this morning, I almost said poor Joe, I didn't, keeps deluding himself about recapturing some ideal Republican past. Quote, this is not Scalia's America right now. This is not Reagan's America. This is not William F. Buckley's America. This is not a conservative's America. Scalia would be horrified by this. I'm not so sure, Joe. And to believe he constantly wants to talk about trying to lecture the Republican Party, bringing back the Republican Party, he just can't see that it's gone, dead, buried, turned into worms. It's over, Joe. Your time was not great anyway. You helped lead to what we have today anyway. You interviewed Trump anyway, but I'm grateful for what he does say when he says it. But then it comes back to this kind of very strange nostalgia, and I don't get it.
Speaking of the Republican Party today, as we speak, you know, I really like this Tony Massey, Thomas Massey. From Kentucky, the congressman, because of where he stood on the Epstein files. And yesterday somebody criticized him or something, and he just shouted at him. He's like, I'm not going to be part of the pedophile protection ring, you know, of the Republican Party. And it's such a great thing to say. It's a horrible thing. I mean, that we're here, and that's the delineation that you're protecting pedophiles, but he won't go along with it, as won't Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other very, quote, conservative, right-wing, Trump-supporting until basically this Republicans. And not to mention the fact, and this can be connected to this other story that I was reading about that you're all up on, that Trump was at a Ford plant and a Ford employee called him a pedophile protector, yelled at him. Trump gives him the finger. Ford suspends him. UAW comes out bravely in his defense. What do you make of Massey? What do you make of this auto worker and the fact that Epstein files and the idea that the president and Republicans are protecting pedophiles is still not going anywhere?
No, it's not. We're old enough to remember when Epstein was a story, and the tail is wagging the dog in this, and it's being forgotten regularly. And we've got to get back to the point when we're exposing them for this. 1% of the documents are out there in violation of the law about that. Massey is right. I'm curious what you think, whether there is the beginnings of we hear a lot of talk about splits of the Republican Party and tension of the Republican Party. We don't really see it. We saw with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She bucked him and then she collapsed and left. Massey so far is hanging tough. The Daily Beast had a story today, which I think is pretty ridiculous, and I don't pay for it, so I couldn't see it all. But saying that Vance is putting himself in position to take over because Trump's too old and things are happening in the White House. I don't know whether I believe that for a second. They're still solidly behind him. That's where it is. But And you started here with, Epstein.
Yeah.
So where are they? Where are the files? Where are we going to get back to this? What is in them? And then God bless that UAW worker or that Ford worker who speaks up. Now, mind you, Ford now goes on my permanent shit list. The fact that Ford didn't stand up for their employee, they did not stand up for the freedom of expression of their employee, they just caved immediately. And by the way, Trump did his whole Tony DeCopel interview from the GM headquarters. He wasn't at
was that
Ford
right?
then.
Oh.
Yeah. So it wasn't like it was just a Ford event. And let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, the heritage of Ford Motor Company and Henry Ford, who was an avowed fascist and racist. And the Dearborn paper that he published and distributed through his dealerships across the country spread Nazi propaganda through the country. You'd think they'd be a little sensitive to their own history. So now they're on my shit list. Hilton is on my shit list because they're all just franchisees. They're not owned by the chain. But when one hotel with the Hilton brand refused the reservations of ICE agents, then Hilton took them off of the Hilton brand and took down the Hilton sign and so on and so forth. So I had a reservation in Austin in 2 weeks in a Hilton hotel. I canceled it. Fuck you. Hilton.
Look at this guy.
And then we got, and not that it mattered, by the way, the bots went crazy on Threads. I'm not much fond of Threads.
Oh, really? I like it over there. Go ahead.
There were 600 comments. They were all fully bot, and then you could tell it's all bots because it just all ended in a certain hour. Boom.
Oh, wow.
It was everything, and then it was nothing. And they're going after me. Oh, Hilton's going to be sad. I just made 5 reservations. Oh, you wussy. Fine. And then there's Target, which was already on my shit list because they gave up their DEI projects. They've been hurting from it, and they don't learn. And now ICE has been in their parking lots grabbing people at Target. They've been publicly using the restrooms there. And Target's not doing a damn thing. So I think we have to start, I'm not one to talk about boycotts generally, but we're all going to make our own choices commercially. And I'm telling you, not that I was going to get a Ford, but actually with the Mustang, the electric Mustang, I was tempted by it. I was going to go take a test drive. Fuck you, Ford. No. Fuck you, Hilton. Gone. Fuck you, Target. Gone. I actually bought something at Target 2 weeks ago because it was there right there and I needed it. And I felt so guilty, I went back and returned it.
Oh, wow. See, that's the kind of moral clarity and conscience.
I waited for 3 minutes to do so. It was not a big deal. It doesn't take a lot of moral clarity to it. But these are the decisions we all have to make.
For sure. I mean, people have talked a lot about some kind of a national strike, some kind of a national movement, something other than the No Kings protests to bring some kind of consequences, to make some kind of noise. But I don't know. I don't know what it is exactly going to take. I think it's going to take some kind of, for there to be nationwide pressure or nationwide movement stronger than just those of us that are, pretty locked in. And I think that there has to be some kind of cost or consequence. The Vietnam War ended because of the draft more than anything else. And of course, the coverage.
Mothers were pissed about their sons.
Yeah. Yes. And the fact that, it was being covered by, the network news and the newspapers, and there wasn't, some conspiracy theory podcast telling people that that they were all crisis actors or something, but I just don't think that without a cost or consequence to people that aren't paying attention, I just don't know. I still feel that. Although I will say, like, these videos that are coming out every day are moving people, but as long as there's like a lot of people that say, listen, if you don't listen to the police, or just they like ICE, it's overwhelmingly disapproved of these snatch and grabs, these kidnappings, these assaults, it's the Gestapo. I mean, all that. None of it's too hyperbolic rhetoric for me. And none of the actions, the nonviolent peaceful protests, including putting your car and body or anything else in between these agents, all that's brave. I'm for all of it, but I still feel like people haven't changed their minds enough, no matter how many horrific videos we see. But what do I know?
A couple things. One, when Nicole Good was murdered, I looked up Kent State. I'm old enough to remember Kent State. You, son, were not old enough to have lived through Kent State.
I heard what happened.
Okay, you had some history books. And the New York Times had the famous picture on its page one, top of page one, the next day of the student kneeling before a fallen colleague, crying for help. And the next day, that day, when they reported on it, the New York Times had an editorial that, yes, made reference to the students shouldn't have burned the ROTC building or whatever, but that stood out clearly, appalled at the overuse of force, and also said that their reporter did not hear, as was reported at the time by the government, snipers they were supposedly going after, and said that straight out and made that judgment. And the next day after that came up with another editorial. Now, last I looked, I haven't seen in the last few days, but last I looked, the New York Times editorial board has remained silent on this. And I can argue that editorials and editorial boards don't matter, especially now when there's blatherers like us everywhere. But if you're going to have one, what does it exist for, if not to call this out? And the problem I think we're missing, I think there's a lot of people in the country who are pissed. And, you know, you and I went to No Kings rallies and we'll stop buying Fords and whatever, fine. We need critical mass. We need a sense that there's a movement rising. Yeah. And mass media is not good for anything anymore, but it could be good for giving a sense of that movement. And it's not. They don't do it.
Speaking of movements, how much have you paid attention to what's going on in Iran? I read yesterday that there's some reporting, and I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. That 12,000 to 20,000 protesters have been killed. Like how? Like literally how? What is their cause of death? And then I read it, it's more like 1,000 or 2,000. Killing any protesters,
which is horrendous,
is pretty bad. But I mean, you would think that the entire world would act or do all kinds of different pressure on that country or any country that was killing protesters in a systemic way.
Except what did we just do?
Yeah, no.
In our name, a protester was killed.
No one's going.
In our name, they're dragged out of cars. We are not very much different from the Ayatollah.
Nobody's going to. Well, I think we're different than the Ayatollah. We have so much power, and we are being run by a crazy person, which is why Europeans aren't standing up against us when we're siding with Russia against NATO, right? And trying to buy Greenland. Like they're worried that there's all kinds of things, all kinds of power that we have. Iran doesn't have that over the world.
No. The Guardian has a column today saying that Europe should cut off all ties with the U.S. That's, shall we say, impractical. But I don't understand. Let's go to this. Greenland. I don't understand why officials of Denmark and Greenland came to the White House. Why are they dignifying this shit?
To tell them to cool it.
Well, they should have done it from a distance, I think. And we're not meeting with you. There's nothing to discuss. Fuck off.
Yeah. What if the people in Greenland want to become an American? Has anybody asked them? It's like 30,
there have been reporters who've gone and done cold people on the street stories, but I don't know if there have been any polls or not.
It's such a weird move, and it started at the beginning of this administration. I don't think they talked about it. If I recall correctly, it wasn't something that was ever mentioned during the campaign. Like after he got elected, he started talking about taking over, annexing Greenland. Randy Fine, the Republican congressman, this guy's really unhinged. He apparently introduced legislation, the Annex Greenland Act in Congress. What won't they do for him? Why is he doing this, do you think? Just to show more power? Same reason he did Venezuela? He's just a gangster going around the world doing old school gangster shit?
So I'm going to do that obnoxious thing I do occasionally with you on the show, is to try to show off that I took German in high school.
Oh, great. I love this when you do that.
And I read an essay in, I think it was, I'm not even sure which to give credit to now. Might have been Der Spiegel, might have been Die Zeit. Arguing that, with some help from Google Translate, I will confess. Sorry, Frau Timoshenko, my German teacher, I didn't pay enough attention.
Huge listener, big supporter.
Yes. Argued that, and I think we know this, what he wants is attention. And it doesn't matter where the attention's coming from. He just wants the attention. And so that puts us in a bind. What do we do about that? Do we ignore him? We can't. We could ignore, here it is. It was in Die Zeit by Bernd Ulrich.
Oh, Bernd.
Your buddy, Bernd. Donald Trump, this is one word, Aufmerksamkeitsauthoritarianismus. I can't even do it. Sorry, Frate. What he argues is that the point of any of this is not the oil. It's not even Epstein distraction. It's that his sick little psyche needs the attention.
Yeah.
Craves the attention.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And I think that's true. And you look with Maduro. He basically came out, and because Maduro mocked his dance, that was it.
Is that right? Is that really true? Is that reporting? That was the final.
Yeah, he talked about it. I saw the video.
Rubio
tried to do my dance.
Rubio probably went over him. He's mocking you, sir. He's mocking you. You gotta get in. We gotta get in there.
Exactly. And people made fun of him for Greenland, so he's going to come back. So it's all about his tiny, tiny little, the irony is he has the world's largest ego and the world's most fragile ego. And it's attention. And my wonky view of this is that Trump is the apotheosis of the attention economy. That I write about this in my book, Magazine, on sale now, that the attention economy, the economics of the attention economy came in 1893, I think it was, when a guy named Muncie, with a magazine named after himself, decided to start selling the magazine at a loss per copy and make it up on advertising. And so what he was selling then was not content to an audience, but an audience to advertisers. And that attention economy has ruled all media, of course, except for movies and books, which sell box office, up until for a century, until the internet came along. And then it infected the internet. And Donald Trump, to me, is the ultimate product of that. The TV celebrity. Yeah. He was made for it because he would do anything foolish just to get the attention.
That's right.
And they exploited that, and they made him a star, a completely unworthy star. You know, when I was a kid, we had game shows. I'm doing Uncle Jeff things today. I'm actually sitting on a heating pad because I fell. And I'm walking like a very old man right now, so I'm feeling
Come on.
So in my day, young Pete, you know, we had game shows filled with people who were only famous for being famous. There was a woman named Peggy Cass who was on these game shows, and I don't know what she ever did. I don't think she ever really did anything, but she was on the game shows. And so she was famous enough to be on the game shows, right? And we created this weird notion of celebrity where it didn't matter what you were famous for, you just could become famous. And that is the essence of Trump. That is everything about Trump.
Certainly the essence of reality shows, too. I feel like that was the beginning of the end during my lifetime, was seeing scripted television turn into reality shows, from Survivor to Apprentice, big money makers. You don't have to pay the actors, and they get better ratings than, you know, sitcoms, scripted dramas, and they're cheap. And so we fell for all that, and we idolized like some guy who lived on an island and some loosely or lightly scripted. Same was The Apprentice, very scripted. I was on that show and saw how it was made, and it was very, very popular, and that's why he is thought to be famous, because he's thought to be a successful businessman, because that show made him look like a successful businessman, even though he's a terrible failure in business and a terrible failure as president, because so many great content creators, journalists, and others are creating lists of his losses, Jarvis.
Oh, endless. But it doesn't matter. See, that's the thing. Is we're trying to. That's part of the normalization. We try to measure this by the standards that we had. Right? He says something horrendous. Yeah, he does to get attention, and he flips the finger. Who cares? He won that, right? He is protecting pedophiles, and so this is like Joe Scarborough trying to recapture the Republican Party. It's people trying to recapture a past that doesn't exist anymore and can't exist anymore. Right. And so we have to build as a society new norms. From scratch, from the ashes. I'm into it. Because they've been burned down.
I would like to help build the new norms. I'd like to be part of the new norm building. Also got to ask you, what the hell happened with Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman? The DOJ is like threatening him with like criminal prosecution, and then I was walking out of the hospital the other day. It's so interesting how disconnected I am, but I'm walking through the hallway, and I remember watching that video and being astonished that Jerome Powell spoke out in the way that he did and said what he said, but I don't really know much more than that.
Well, this goes back. This is again a case where Trump was embarrassed when the two of them stood with hard hats on in the Fed's new headquarters, and Trump tried to say that there was this huge overrun, and it's all and Powell, as is his wont, there very subtly shook his head no and corrected him on it in real time, and that pissed off Trump enough that there was no surviving. He was already against him because he wants to lower interest rates, no matter what it means for the economy, no matter what it does to us. I want to get this to catch on. You know, I don't have many things like this. You know, it was the great Carville line. It's stupid. It's the economy stupid, and I want to spread the idea now that instead it's stupid's economy. Everything like about the economy is Trump's, and he's responsible for it. And the fact that people trust Powell a lot more. So my only point about this at this point is it's obviously a exploitation of our justice system for injustice doing this. But newspapers looking at this, when they just put up a headline that says that, let me see if I have one here, I don't, that they are trying to investigate There it is. So hold on a second. Federal prosecutors open investigation into Fed Chair Powell. Well, in a world where oftentimes, most times, the headline is the only thing read, that leaves the impression that there's some legitimate investigation here and that Powell's in trouble. In this case, at least put scare quotes around the word investigation.
That's a good point.
Because you're accepting the notion that the Trump administration has given you that this is a legitimate investigation, and it's not. Trump's investigation is a warning to the next Fed chair, says the Wall Street Journal. U.S. prosecutors launch criminal investigation into Fed's Powell, says the FT. That's irresponsible journalism. We know it's not a real investigation. We know it's a show, and if it goes very far, it'll be a show trial.
I read something, a headline that they're already backing off.
Well, yeah, because the stock market, and Trump made mention of this, the stock market immediately reacted badly. But then when all the prior Fed chairs and Treasury secretaries and foreign bank heads all said, what the fuck?
Yeah, rarely do all the central bankers get together on one page and support another. But yeah.
And so I think that's all that's happening is the market is betting that he's going to have to back off. This won't work. And, again and again and again, we see, of course, people having to leave the DOJ because they won't do something that's illegal. But at some point you run out of decent people at the DOJ. There's nobody left to quit over things. They'll put in scumbuckets. And there was a report, was it on Morning Show today, that talked about how, but Trump's losing in the courts. Yeah, but I forget who it was, did a very good piece looking not at the district level, but at the appellate level, and how the Trump's appointed judges are ruling for him 90-odd% of the time. I can't remember the exact number.
I want to know that piece.
So he's bought the judiciary. We know he's bought the Supreme Court. He's bought the appellate level. And so even if good things happen at the district level, it'll get turned over.
You say he's bought the Supreme Court. I mostly agree. Obviously, he appointed, 4 of them? But my understanding is that there's also reporting coming out that the administration is panicking because that same Supreme Court, which almost has been overwhelmingly on his side, is going to side against the president's ability to levy all these tariffs, thus putting in a huge hole in his dumb strategy that has destroyed the country from the inside out anyway. So that could be a pretty big deal come, I guess, June, unless it comes out earlier, that decision.
But here's the irony, Pete. If those tariffs went away tomorrow because they were ruled illegal, the stock market's going to go bananas happy. The economy is going to improve. Our prices for some things will go down. There will be more exports. The thing that could happen is it could be the best favor that the Supreme Court gives to Donald Trump because it could mend what's wrong with the economy right now, which is it's stupid's economy.
Really?
It's the crap that he's doing.
Have you seen economists predicting that?
No, but hey, they can't predict anything any better than a podcaster, so. We know how damaging the tariffs are to the economy. And if they went away overnight, we've seen that every time there was a back off on the tariffs, the market went up. So the market's happy with that. And your 401k is going to be in better shape. And we'll see where that goes from there.
I got to ask, anytime there's a question about journalists being prosecuted, FBI raids home of Washington Post reporter in a highly unusual and aggressive move. That's The Guardian. The FBI searches home of Washington Post journalist in a leak investigation. That's The New York Times. And USA Today, FBI searches Washington Post reporter's home over classified documents. What's this all about? I don't think you're allowed. I don't think that's pretty unprecedented. And would it be in quote normal times a huge story? The FBI.
It would indeed be, because they went into her home. They took away her phone, 2 laptops, one of which was a company laptop, the other one her personal one, her Garmin watch to find out where she's been. And but what they're saying, this is one of those sneaky things. They're saying that Nathanson, I'm trying to find her first name, Hannah Nathanson, is not the target here. That, no, we're not going after the journalist. We're just going in and grabbing everything she has because we're going after somebody we suspect of having had classified documents.
They're going after the leaker in the government, not the journalist. That's what they're saying.
They're investigating Aurelio Perez Lagones, a system administrator in Maryland, who has a top secret clearance and has been accused of accessing, this is when the ad comes in and it moves, of accessing and taking home classified intelligence reports that were found in his lunchbox and his basement, according to an FBI affidavit, says the Post. So they're going to stand back and they're going to have managed to do a search of a reporter's material and seizure of reporter's material, and they're going to argue, it has nothing to do with the reporter, really. But they will have, that's another line crossed.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that in democracy. Searches of newsrooms and journalists are hallmarks of illiberal regimes.
Hello, there we are. Yeah. See, that's the thing, is people aren't acknowledging that's where we are. Yeah, and, the Post has gone so Trumpist. They're going to have to stand up against this, but they're not going to be as strong as they should be, nor will the Times be.
I mean, and furthermore, when they do this, and every journalist in Washington and everywhere else knows that they're capable of doing this, what does that do to journalists' incentives, ability, or sense of security about doing their job? I mean, just the precedent that it sets, I think, is the most important thing. I'm sure, your Timothy Snyder's, Ruth Ben-Ghiat's are talking about what this means to other journalists, what this signals to other journalists, right?
Well, it's been every important institution in society, right? So it's medicine, society, it's medicine, science, the academe, law, journalism. Right. They're all under fundamental attack here. And, it's first they came for the immigrants, then they came for the LGBTQ people, and then they came for the trans kids, and then finally when they come for Jimmy Kimmel, people pay attention.
Right.
But these other institutions are not standing up, and that's my complaint about Hollywood. Hollywood is an institution, and it should have used its power and privilege in the completely meaningless Golden Globes to have said something. I mean, Nikki is the one who stands out because she made fun of CBS on CBS as host.
Nikki Glaser.
And said that the Department of Justice won the award for most editing, and now people come to CBS. God bless her. It was one small little attempt. But all these institutions are under attack. This is very, very different. The American Historical Association, which is historians, academics, had its conference, and on the floor, 2 resolutions were put forward condemning Israel for, and that's a hot button, I know, but they were condemning it for, I think the word academicide, that they had destroyed the universities of Gaza, and that there was a problem of freedom of expression about this in universities across the world. Passed a huge number, and then it would go to the Executive Council, then it could go to all the members, including those who weren't there. The Executive Council killed it. Why? Because they're scared. Because it'll put them in a vulnerable position. So the chill is working, and if you don't stand up to the chill, you're a part of it.
Really important point. Before I let you go, whenever you get to talk to Jarvis, you got to ask him about the latest in tech, which he's always covering. And you want to you got an AI story you want to mention?
All right, now I got to remember what it was here.
Where are we in the world of artificial intelligence? This is you sent this to me.
Oh, so there was an interesting paper. So every week I go through and I try to read all the papers I can find that mention AI. I don't read the papers. I read the headlines.
A scholarly paper.
Scholarly papers, yes, preprints. And this is not actually from preprint. This is from a paper from a publication called Minds and Machines. And it argues that using AI for tasks that are fundamentally about communicating is replacing communication with something that is not communication. Well, that sounds like a bunch of academic talk. But it's interesting because it says that its conclusion at the end is that if the more people use AI to express themselves, and I would have thought that was a good thing in the sense that people who were intimidated by writing or intimidated by presenting could express themselves using these tools to help them. I still think that's the case. But it said that it would raise the bar on communication so high that people would be intimidated from communicating. And in a sense, that's what big old media did back in the day, was that it, in the Gutenberg parenthesis, second plug for the show, on sale now, I talk about how when Montaigne invented the form of the essay, he raised the bar on joining into public discourse. You had to be a writer to speak. You had to be eloquent to speak, in essence, to get attention paid. And that existed up through mass media where you had to know the publisher to speak. And now we have the internet where we can all speak. You and I can sit here and blather on podcast for forever. We have the right and freedom of speech here. But what'll happen, and I'm generally interested in AI, but what'll happen if it affects our sense of our own communication with ourselves? I find these kind of discussions just plain interesting. So that's why it's a rather odd thing to bring in. Okay, I got one more question for you, Pete.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the lights are dimming in the
Syracuse.
the manse there.
Syracuse, New York.
Well, yeah, you're up very north. You're near the Arctic Circle, so it gets darker there
I'm
sooner.
close to the Arctic.
So you're in your boyhood room.
That's right. I'm in my boyhood childhood bedroom right now. Yeah.
I'm very disappointed that he's already taken off the posters that clearly, surely existed on the walls behind him.
You know,
in your youth, what would have been there, Pete? What were the artifacts of young Pete?
My whole childhood, it was sports. It was athletes, all kinds: football, basketball, lacrosse, skiers. And then when I discovered my penis and its functions, or at least its desires. What it wanted, it decided to start decorating with like Sports Illustrated swimsuit women and still athletes. And then I started to introduce actors, and I just vaguely remember, and I think this is the cringiest. I used to cover the bedroom door here with stickers and pictures and stuff. And I had a picture of an actor I really liked. I liked his acting mostly, but
don't tell me it's not David Hasselhoff.
It's not that bad. He's a pretty good actor, but it's still going to shock you maybe a little bit. The actor is Christian Slater. I had a picture of Christian Slater on my bedroom door. Sounds like I was confused. I wasn't. I just thought he was cool. I wanted to be like him.
I think you need to interview him on the show.
So facing outward, it was, actors. That's who I wanted to be. But inside the sanctuary here, still some actors. But yeah, a lot of like swimsuit. Yeah, that's what it was. I wonder if adolescent boys who like girls still, or anybody else, still hang up, scantily clad women in their.
I wonder too.
Yeah. I don't know if it was ever inappropriate, but
they don't have magazines, really.
Right, they used to sell those posters too, though. There's a place called Spencer's Gifts in the back that all these like sex toys, and that's as a teenager, you'd love to go in there and you look at the underwear. They had this underwear that two people could wear. Like that would ever be a thing that would be enjoyable. But when you're younger, you're like, oh, this must be awesome. People must be doing this all the time. But they also had the posters. Remember those posters that you could grab and flip?
Well, I'm old enough for Dayglow posters.
I don't know what that is.
Blacklight posters.
Oh, right. Did they have color ink when you were?
Because that's what if you were trying to get across that you were druggy.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they had those for sure.
And candles.
But you would look at them because they would be like women covered in like suds, like soap suds over their private parts, and that would be it. That would be all. But that would be as close as you would get to porn, unless you had a friend who his dad had. Like it was just a whole different world. To try to see a woman naked was a lot of work.
A quest.
And once you found one, you kept that picture somewhere private.
All right, so here's my embarrassment.
Right near my Skull Bandits.
There was a literary magazine called Evergreen Review that was a truly literary magazine. It was sold in good places, but it was the 60s, so it had avant-garde stuff. So it had I managed to buy the copy of the magazine. It was a major get that had two women frolicking naked in an auto junkyard. And of course the headline was autoeroticism.
Good. All right.
And it opened up a whole new world for me. So are any of these artifacts still there, or were they all expunged at some point? Yeah.
I have a lot of artifacts here. I have a lot of my childhood stuff here and even at my house. I kept more than I think probably anybody I know. I feel bad for whoever has to clean up after me when I die.
Yeah, you're a nostalgic guy.
I have like my fifth grade journal. I have
I want a dramatic reading, Pete.
I have progress reports and like detention notices from teachers. Peter is insubordinate, doesn't pay attention. He's always making jokes and trying to get attention for himself. Doesn't realize that he's here to learn. And I was like, I'm not though. I'm there to entertain, Dad. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, I am, Pop. That's what I want to do. He's like, all right then. Forget math. Write some material. Jeff Jarvis, as always, a pleasure having you.
A pleasure. Good luck with Mom and Dad. I know that your dad's probably upset about all this as well.
He's got it locked down. He's good. He's making more. The dude's working the phones like a talent agent. You should see him. It's unbelievable. He's got a chair riding up the railing of the stairs ordered. He's got a new car ordered. He's, doting on my mom's, in full control. It's a wonderful dynamic. 54 years, these two kids. Yep. Wonderful. Yep, we're bathing in gratitude. That's the
well,
saying.
and I know that all of your fans are grateful to them for raising you as a good guy, and so give them, I'll speak for all of your fans to say give them our love.
I will do that. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody who watched live. And go follow Jeff Jarvis, everybody. Get everything he's doing. Follow everything he's doing. Listen to everything he's doing. It's all in the show notes. And I will see you later. All right, there you go, Jeff Jarvis. And Colby Hall, and your news, and your clip. We did it. We did a full show today. Pretty proud of myself given the circumstances, and I can't do any of it without you. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Meet us in Vegas for PodJam 3, April 9th through 12th. It's going to be a party. Really looking forward to that, and that's it. That's all I've got. Be the change you want to see. Keep fighting, keep breathing, keep connecting with other people, and join us in this community and at our hangout tonight at 8 p.m. East. John Carroll writes and performs all the music for the show. Support him at johncarroll.org, and I'll talk to you tomorrow or tonight.
Please, that's the time you gotta finally get up on your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't in sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be told up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.